Have you thought about making any New Year's resolutions, or do you think it's a waste of time? Here's what some people said over there on Facebook.
I don't think you need a specific date to make a resolution.
Any change that you make should be like a lifelong thing.
People always have these unrealistic goals.
I might walk out of this place right now and that's it. So I think a resolution really is just not something that's realistic.
No, I'm not going to do it.
I never stick to them.
All of them failed.
I used to every year, like everybody else. I'm going to get thin, I'm going to do this, I'm going to eat right.
A lot of positivity there in those comments. Rather than set all or nothing resolutions, some experts actually recommend setting smaller, more achievable goals. So let's talk about this when it comes to, financial planning. For someone who wants to get serious about their retirement plan in 2025, what is the first step, and how big of a time commitment should they be expected to put into it?
Yeah, I mean, look, the key is setting these smaller goals that are obtainable, and then as you let's say master that individual goal. Once you get to that point, then you can level up, move up in another direction. So ideally, let's just say we're starting from scratch and someone doesn't have any money saved. So getting at least $1,000 in a savings account, which is a great thing. Then we have to look at, going through your expenses and figuring out the unneeded expenses that you can erode from a cash outlay each and every month. There's a lot of people paying for little knick-knack subscriptions here and there that they don't need. But it's also, these last-minute purchases, things that, scroll over social media, like, oh, that looks cool. Buy that, and then you don't really need it, but it looks cool. And maybe it's like, it's on sale. It's 25, it's 30, 40, 50% off. But did you really need it? So we got to look at areas of where you're spending money. We have to look at having a debt plan, paying off your credit cards if you have them. So that's a key thing. So from there, it's, like I said, small victory is number one, getting at least $1,000 saved, then having a handle on your expenses, figuring out how to be profitable each and every month. You might have to earn extra income to do so. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot of Americans that are having to take a part-time job or a second job of some sort to survive, to save, with inflation that we've been dealing with. The other thing is looking at all the debt that you have and figuring out a plan. So we do what we call debt stacking, where we have a mathematical plan where we're looking at the interest rate, the balance, the minimum payment, and the extra payment that you're making, and creating a schedule of how to pay things off efficiently. Maybe you might need to look at refinancing some of the debt. Consolidation loans with credit cards, things like that. That'll free up money every month. What you don't want to do is continue having bad habits that got you there in the first place. But ideally, it's paying down debt, having a bigger emergency fund saved. You want to have at least 3 to 4 months worth of an emergency fund before you start trying to focus on putting your money in your retirement accounts. Now, the retirement accounts are very crucial, and we have to look at the structure of them. I would make sure that I'm maxing out my Roth options as much as possible. Then from there, it's looking at your pre-tax savings potentially. But depending on your income, it might just be better to go Roth the whole way. Now, look, we meet with people that have a high 7-figure balance in their IRAs, and the one thing they regret is that the fact that they didn't put any money in a Roth over time and let that money grow and compound tax-free, where the IRA, grew tax-deferred, but whenever they take it out, they have a huge tax liability. So the key thing is looking in that structure, and also having money saved for short-term expenses. Looking at potentially an update for your air conditioner. Instead of financing that, paying in cash, a down payment on a new vehicle, or paying the vehicle cash. Those kind of things. Looking at if you're buying a new home, trying to set yourself up to where you finance it through a 15-year mortgage, not a 30-year. So we have to look at all these different little things, and looking at also what's the goal for the future, the goal cash flow, the goal maybe the increases of income that you potentially could have at your job, maybe a side hustle. Then we have to look at your even New Year's resolutions on how to lower your tax liability. So what we do is we help people build plans. We have this trifecta that we create, that where we look at everything as a whole, making sure you're doing your proper estate planning, and then from there organizing your assets to where they're tax efficient, but also your entity structure as well, to where you have it's structured from a legality standpoint, but also from a tax standpoint. So ideally, everybody's in a different situation. Everybody has different goals and aspirations and dreams. So it's a matter of looking at the math and figuring out what do they need to do to structure it correctly to lower that tax liability. And even there's things that we can do to eliminate your taxation each and every year, but it's all with proper planning. So let's make 2025 the best year yet, and the year where you took advantage of the tax code to pay the least amount of taxes possible and build tax efficient wealth.
And then build upon that, in the years to come, if it's not something that can be achieved, ultimately all at once. There's a saying that I read earlier this year, which struck me as funny until I took a deeper dive into it. It's anything that's worth doing is worth doing poorly. For example, perhaps getting debt free in 2025 is not completely feasible, but starting somewhere, taking those steps and working to get that down. Perhaps retirement. You don't plan on retiring in 2025, but in a few years, starting the planning process as soon as possible, making those incremental changes now to really optimize yourself for success down the line. It all starts with, really resolving to get a better hold of your financial future. So got to go ahead and make that resolution for you guys out there. And a great place to start is by reaching out to the team at Matthew James Tax Wealth Management. Complimentary, no cost, no obligation, time to come in and chat with them. 337-366-8366 or online at matthewjames.com. You may have a year, a month, or an age in mind on when you're going to retire, but if you ask people in retirement whether they make it to that date, 58% actually say no, and they retired earlier, according to a recent survey by the EBRI, the Employee Benefit Research Institute. For most people, it was a forced retirement due to health or downsizing at work. When asked how they made that sudden adjustment, almost 40% said that they received guaranteed income through a pension or a form of an annuity or something like that. John, what does this say as far as the planning process sooner rather than later, and also the importance of possibly utilizing some form of guaranteed income?
Yeah, we got to look at what guaranteed income streams that you potentially could have. Social Security is one, pension could be another. But setting an investment structure, that word guarantee comes with some limitations, some strings attached that we have to potentially recalculate and figure out, okay, what's the best thing for you at that point? Because if you're getting a guarantee in one area, what are you letting go in another? So what we want to do is making sure that we can solve for the amount of income that you need, the spendable income, and using the right investment vehicles to where you're not having to tie your money in some kind of guaranteed income annuity. If you've been listening to the show for a while, I'm not a fan of those. It's one thing when you're taking a withdrawal out of an investment account, but getting a contractual guaranteed income, that's like I said, there's problems with it where you're dealing with liquidity issues, transferable issues upon death, the investment options that you get to have, but also the dilution of your account value over time, taking those kind of structures. So we want to make sure that you're putting yourself in the right place and you're doing a lot of, you're mitigating a lot of risk as well, but you're using the right structure to create, income through dividends, when it's appropriate time to realize capital gains, looking at how to receive interest from certain types of accounts, how to get, credits, but also looking at how to lower the tax liability so you're keeping majority of your money that you're receiving each and every year instead of having a tremendous amount of money going towards taxation and even increasing your medical expense as well.
Setting up a time to speak with Acadiana's retirement strategist and the entire team at Matthew James Tax and Wealth Management, figure out how it's all going to work for you, how to make those dollars work for you in as tax efficient a way as possible. 337-366-8366 is that phone number, or go online to matthewjames.com.